Asta. Today on Pack to Hack, we're going to talk about what food you might want to bring to a hackathon. And guess what? It's the 5-day countdown to Startup Bus. So in 5 days, I'm going to be hopping on the bus as a participant in New York City and making the trip, creating a startup with the team to New Orleans in a few days. So that's super exciting. And like every day that passes, it just builds the excitement even more. So when you are going to a hackathon, most hackathons will provide all of your meals. So you might think, oh, I don't really need to worry about food at all. I don't need to pack or bring anything with me. And if you're someone who will eat absolutely anything, that might be pretty close to the case. But if you're someone who has any type of dietary restrictions or special dietary needs, you might want to consider bringing something with you. Or if you think you'd like to brighten your spirits throughout the event, you might want to bring food that's just brings you joy. So we'll talk about a few different things to consider when packing food for a hackathon. So for me, I am vegetarian and I don't eat cheese. And many times you'll sign up, oh, I'm vegan. And I'll do that because it's often easier to get that than to specify the details of what I eat and don't eat. And places sometimes will provide hackathon food that meet that, and sometimes they don't. And I don't really expect them to need to exactly cater to my needs. I'm one person, they have a hackathon of potentially thousands of people. So what I'll do is bring along food that I know I can eat that is vegetarian and doesn't have any cheese. So regardless of whether the hackathon has food I can eat or doesn't, I'll be able to eat throughout the hackathon. Another consideration is it can be difficult to plan how much food to have at a hackathon. So if you're expecting 8,000 people to come and you end up with 10,000 people at the hackathon, food might go much quicker than you expect it would as a planner. And I've been on the planning side of a hackathon as well, and I know that it can just be difficult to know how much food people will come up and take. Even though you might have the exact number of participants you planned on having, so let's say 8,000 and 8,000, folks might take much more food so that they can save and eat it for later than you might have anticipated. So food might disappear more quickly. So if you end up near the tail of the line to go pick up food at the hackathon and there isn't any, that can be a drain. And if it happens more than once, it can be a super drain. So I always make sure I have something so that if I didn't happen to be able to get food that go around, I'll have snacks to snack on. The other consideration is the food available might be mostly snacks. And though this might be a child's dream of things like chips and pretzels and candies and granola bars, it's not great food to keep your energy and spirits high for low sleep multiple days in a row. So if main meals you end up skipping or having a little of, there might be long stretches of time. For instance, I've seen from dinner time, so like 7 o'clock at night, to breakfast time the next morning, so 6 o'clock the next morning, 11 hours, there wouldn't be any meals throughout the whole night. So all that's left is snacks. And again, that's not going to keep your energy and spirits high. They're probably high in sugar, high in carbs, high in things that aren't going to have you jazzed and ready to go. So having supplemental food with you would allow you to eat that instead of the snacks available. Those are also considerations to think about when you go to pick up food at the hackathon. So if they only offer meals at particular times of the day, and those meals have a lot of fresh food in them, consider having a little bit extra so that, or bringing a little extra back with you so that you can eat it at times where there isn't that fresh food available. So there's a couple different categories that we're going to talk through. We're going to talk about how could you actually stay awake for a really long time at a hackathon. How could you go about choosing what food and snacks you might bring and eat? And special considerations for if the event is a 24-hour hackathon versus a longer hackathon. So first, if you plan to stay awake the entire time of the hackathon, I can't stress enough how important it is not to drink caffeine as like a continuous stream the entire time. I've seen so many people get sick by just drinking caffeine, 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 not eating anything else or eating much of substance. And that'll make you really nauseated over time. And nothing's worse than if it's time for you to go get up and pitch and you're sick because you've just been drinking caffeine. So you really need to balance what you're drinking, what you're eating in order to stay awake a long time, but also not succumb to that. So along with the don't continuously drink caffeine is there are Uber shots of caffeine now. Sometimes you'll see them as little double shots, and a lot of hackathons will hand them out. They'll also pay very close attention that you're only taking one and not taking more than one. And if you read very closely on the fine print, they could actually land you in the hospital. I would also recommend staying away from those entirely. Having a warning label plus folks handing them out very cautiously, you don't really need that level of a hit in caffeine. You're more trying to stay continuously awake, not get the crazy spikes and dips. So another recommendation to kind of stay away from those type of things. The thing that I found that most helps me stay awake for a long time is a combination of coffee, orange juice, fresh fruit, and exercise. So I'll often eat a banana, orange juice, and coffee, not all at the same time, but that'll be the stream of different things. And the exercise bit will keep your brain more awake. So I'll do jumping jacks or squats, or I'll say, hey team, let's go for a run. I've even been at a hackathon where in the middle of the night, we all ran out and ran around blocks around town. Some version of that will keep everyone more awake. And by combining caffeine with some sugar as well as some fresh food, you'll generally over time stay more awake without that crash or without your stomach getting really sick. The other thing with this, you have to remember to actually eat. I'm infamous for failing at this when I tend to get heads down working on something. I don't need food in terms of my body doesn't remember it needs food. So I don't get that warning light of, hey, like go eat something. So last year at Hackathon, my friends at dinner were like, eat, 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 eat. And they were a collection of folks doing this until they got me to go eat dinner with them. So if you're one of those people like me who tends to forget, let your friends know that ahead of time and you'll really benefit from them reminding you, hey, you actually need to have a meal. And I don't skip the meals that they have available to you. They tend to have the best food, the freshest food, the most nutritious food, versus like we talked about earlier, you want to stay away from just solely loading up on snacks the entire time. And lastly, I'll generally pack some energy chews that have a combination of caffeine and sugar in them. And this is more for if you need that quick bright boost. They're similar to what you would use on different runs. And if you're getting to pitch time and you've been awake for 36 hours, this can kind of perk you up a little bit. You want to be cautious, not to use these the entire time. They'll get you sick as well as you'll end up crashing. And you don't want to crash before you actually need to do your final pitch. The alternative of needing to think about staying awake the entire time is thoughtfully plan when you might sleep. So for Startup Bus, It's going to be a several day journey. We're not staying awake the entire time. So we're going to need to eat nutritiously and continue to use these techniques I've talked about, but consciously also say, here's when we're going to sleep so that we can be recharged and refreshed for the next day. When you're choosing food at the venue, again, you're going to want to stick to the freshest food you can find. So you'll see, go for the bananas, the apples, any of the fresh fruit you can find, as well as any fresh vegetables. I'll go for all those things first. If they have yogurt, I'll go for that as well. Anything that will pack you a little bit more of the nutrition. Those things also might tend to go really fast. So if you start seeing them disappear, you're going to want to hop in line and get a few of those so that you can keep well fed. Now, what will I bring with me from a snack perspective on the road? So I've traveled around the country a fair amount, and like we talked about, I only carry what fits on my back. And so you can't bring your whole pantry of food along with you. But I have found some things that are a great mix of protein and carbs that can keep you well fed, as well as not take up a ton of space. So whenever I travel anywhere, I'll bring peanut butter and rice cakes. So not your typical rice cakes that are like this fat, and I find them difficult to bite into, and those are the ones that we had when we were kids. There are these rice cakes now that are super thin, like a bruschetta would be, and I'll take those and put a thin layer of peanut butter on them, and they're a great burst of energy when you're out road tripping, out biking, running. They're a great post-exercise snack. And for a hackathon, they're a great snack to keep you well fed, a good balance, without needing to resort to the snack table. Again, they don't take up very much space at all. Because they're the thin ones, a package of 4 is only this high, and the peanut butter jar is like this. So it takes up a tiny space in my bag to bring that along with me. I'll also bring along mixed nuts, the unsalted kind, and go for your preference of roasted or unroasted. And again, it's a protein burst as well as a good healthy snack that you can have when you're traveling. And all of these things fit both vegetarian or vegan if needed. If peanut butter is not your thing, you can sub that for any other type of nut butter and get a similar effect. I will also bring along any snack that gives you that feeling of comfort or that feeling of joy, so that if you're at the hackathon a really long time and just kind of hitting your head against the wall, you have something that when you eat, you're like, oh, that makes me happy and brings joy to you. So this will be different for every single person. For me, sometimes it's something as simple as Cheerios. For other folks, it might be bringing along a chili packet that maybe you find a microwave you can heat it up in, or even some kind of candy that you just particularly like. And you're not looking to eat this the whole time. You're more looking at, oh, that makes me smile when I have it. And so I'll bring that along so that when I'm a little bit down, I can eat that and just get that joy back again. If it's a 24-hour hackathon you're going to, you have the advantage that you can bring along any food that you need to keep cold. So if it's only 24 hours, I'll bring a little cooler, and in that cooler for me goes orange juice and yogurt. And we talked earlier that I like to combine coffee, orange juice as like a way to stay awake. If I bring my own orange juice, I make sure I have it ready to go. And I particularly like very low sugar yogurt, so I'll bring that along so that I can have it at any time as a good way. That's usually what I'll have in a combination of that with a granola for breakfast. So I'll bring that along to snack on as well. There are many different things you can consider when looking at food for a hackathon. You can bring it yourself. You can go all in and wait for the venue to have it. For the Startup Bus trip, I'm going to pack my peanut butter and my rice cakes so that wherever we are, I have a quick snack available. And that's really all I can say, like in regards to food. Make sure you're not doing too caffeine heavy that you get sick. Make sure that you actually keep eating over time and don't get too involved in what you're working on that you forget to eat, like I've failed at before. And make sure that what you're eating brings you joy so that you can have a smile on your face and make it through to pitch time. For tomorrow's Pack to Hack, we're going to look at what clothing might you consider bringing for a hackathon. There are some special things you might want to think about in different types of adventures that you can get on. So we'll talk about that tomorrow. Have a great day, everybody.